Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am always checking if things are working and let me see if we're good. Yes, we are. Yeah, I always do this, right? Maybe at one point I will be confident that things are working without having to double check using my phone. Welcome everyone. We are, well, it's our first live in May, which is crazy because, time is going by very fast despite everything that is happening in the world with COVID 19 and the pandemic. A lot of people entering the group still have questions, and I think it's natural and concerns about how things will be looking and going with their research as the pandemic evolves. And I think we are all learning as we go. It will be hard to say how things will be even a month from now, let alone 3, 4 months from now in the fall. So we'll take one day at a time and we'll learn and share. And I am sharing with you absolutely everything I can as I am learning as well. I'm currently in the process of trying to learn more about Facebook ads and using Facebook ads for recruitment for projects that are migrating online. And as soon as I learn about that and what you can do, I will certainly share with you. That is something that I have seen, and I have a really good friend who wrote a blog post for me back in February. And now, more than ever, Facebook is becoming a possibility for recruitment. And of course, it depends on who your participants are, the topic of your research, and whether or not that is even applicable and an option for your project. But I promise that as we learn, and I am working with two graduate students who are fantastic, as we learn, we will be sharing our learnings with you. And hopefully, if that's something that you can consider, it will be helpful. So today, I am actually not going to be talking about qualitative research per se or directly. It is a topic that I have planned and I had thought about covering here for many months, and I wanted to share with you because I think it's even more relevant in the current climate and circumstances. If you haven't read yesterday's blog post, it's about recreation and why qualitative researchers need recreation. And it's a play in the word recreation. Recreation is spelled as recreation, is a way of enjoying yourself when you're not working. That's the definition by the online dictionary, I think. And the play with that word is thinking about recreation as re slash creation or re dash creation. And it is a way of us of thinking as how we are feeding our brains. And a lot of people will say how we are feeding our creative juices outside of work. I think it's extremely important for any researcher to really have those times outside of their area of expertise and outside of their area of research where they are taking a break, but they are also seeing what's happening out there and feeding their creative juices, their creative flow by trying and experimenting with new things. So I see recreation as essential for the creative process. And that's not only for qualitative research, but also for quantitative research. I think this is something that I see as people not really seeing, oh, if you're creative, you're not being rigorous, you're not doing rigorous research. And I really don't agree with that. I think that even for quantitative research, with the pressure, and maybe the word pressure has a negative meaning here. So, with the pressure we have had to really make research more accessible to people outside of the ivory tower of academia and universities, we need to be more flexible, and more creative in explaining concepts, results, complex biological mechanisms to people who are not experts. It needs to matter beyond small circles in academia. Research needs to matter beyond small circles of academia. And this pressure has really made knowledge translation, which in certain parts of the world is called knowledge mobilization or knowledge integration, to really make us be more creative in how we present our research to a lay audience or to people outside the circles that understand our jargons and our mechanisms without needing any additional translation. And of course, I think this, what I just said, is applicable to any research, whether quantitative or qualitative. But when it comes to qualitative research, I think this idea of recreation is really important. And when you have a chance, and if you are a fan of them already, we are in the same boat. I really like Janice Morse as a writer, and she wrote editorial pieces that are usually one page for Qualitative Health Research, the journal, for many, many years. And in those editorials, she had some really interesting nuggets and uh, insights. I think her own thinking and reflective process came out a lot in that writing. And she has one that talks about the role of imagination and creativity for qualitative researchers. And I believe it is very important. And one of the things that I share in the blog post, and you might have seen, is that when I was doing my own qualitative research with immigrants and refugees, from Northeast Africa, one of the things that came up was language as being a barrier. And I remember my supervisor at that point saying, okay, this is old, same old, same old. We have written about it, we have talked about it, we have said how people struggle with language barriers. This is not new. There won't be a translator in every prenatal appointment. We need to go beyond this. We need to be more creative, more solution based and strength based, and see what is what is really happening here. What is beyond language as being a barrier and also a challenge for the health of pregnant and postpartum women. And it was through that challenging question that I really had to step outside of the box and of what was already written, researched, repeated again and again, and had to really be more mindful and thoughtful about the themes that were higher and bigger in my data. And that's really when the idea and the theme that weaved through all my categories with back home and here kind of became more visible to me as someone who was working with the data for many months and getting to a point where it was harder to see new things, but that challenging question or that challenging point of, okay, this is same old, what is new in your data, what is happening there beyond what we all have heard and learned from past research. And it was through that question that I really was almost forced, but in a positive way, to really be more creative and to innovate with my results and how they were presented. So I think creativity is really important for qualitative research and how we write the findings, how we present the findings. Again, if you're joining me, I see some people joining me now. If you're joining me now and hearing that, I have said before, earlier in this video, something that I truly believe, that being creative does not mean not being rigorous. You're still following rigorous research and you're still trying to conduct rigorous research, is the most correct way of saying this. And you are doing all the strategies you can do to have your data be trustworthy, or we could use valid, and to really explain the social phenomena or the human experience that you're trying to explain. Still, there is a place for the imagination of the researcher and the creativity of the researcher to come out and come alive and really put the participant at the center of a research that is really interesting and that's beautiful and that tells a story. I think those things are not, they don't exclude each other. I think they should be complementary. So, when thinking about what this idea of recreation is and what um, recreation means as recreation and feeding your creative juices as a qualitative researcher, I think it will be very personal and it varies a lot from person to person. I have found a lot of inspiration in books outside of my area. I have found a lot of inspiration in podcasts. I have a list of podcasts that I don't miss on a weekly basis. And I definitely have a favorite. Not that anyone is asking, but I will share anyway. It's Unlocking Us with Brené Brown is definitely one of my favorites. But I do also hear a lot of business podcasts. I hear Dr. Kathy Mazek. Amplified Academic is one that helps me a lot with writing strategies. And all those things that are outside of my current qualitative projects really feed my creative juices. I can share one of the most interesting instances for me of that being an example is exactly how I thought about QualiQ of even starting the company. I was baking Christmas cookies for my son's daycare back in 2018. I was on leave from my PhD, taking care of my daughter. And when I was baking the cookies, I found this video, and it was actually an ad for someone who was selling a course, an online course online on how to take photographs of food if you were a food blogger. And in that point, I really thought, I was like, wow, that sounds great. I was like, I wonder if I could embrace that online learning and teaching. And one thing that I am very passionate about and that I feel like I can contribute is with qualitative methods. And that's when the vision of starting QualiQ and this online world and community and courses and teaching came about. So that was while I baked Christmas cookies back in 2018. And I think even sometimes as I read bedtime stories to my kids, I really think of parallels in the stories that I am reading there in my work. And you kind of start to realize how those moments of rest can really help. And I encourage you, and I want to challenge everyone who might be watching this now live or when you're watching this later to really think of what makes sense to you as feeding your creative juices or your creativity as a qualitative researcher. And if you have had any instance in the past where it was clear how an experience outside of your academic career or your research really made a difference in how you presented your data, how your results were illuminated or became more clear, please share with us. Let us learn from you. I am definitely someone who feel highly inspired by other people's story, and I really enjoy when people have those moments of what I think of the aha moments that really happen outside of their work hours or outside of their readings that are related to their research. And with that, I will end our live today. If you have any questions, please post in the comments and share your thoughts with us. I hope you can find ways to feed your creative juices and find time for recreation. I think more than ever, it is so important. We are definitely going through the ebbs of and flows of a pandemic, and there are good days, hard days, awful days, and we need it for our mental health, and I think also for our really to calm our mind, but also to be in that space where we can find energy and ideas to be creative despite the circumstances that are happening in the world. With that, I will end here and I will talk to you next week, and we'll cover a new topic. Will probably be also related to the upcoming blog post, and I'll try to make them not similar, but I will try to link what goes out on Tuesday with what I cover here on Wednesday. But that does not mean that if you have any questions that we can definitely come back next week and cover ideas and questions that are shared in the group. As we move forward, I have a couple of projects that are happening in my consulting business, and with the learnings from those, I will definitely share them with you as well. So there will be a bit of everything in this Qualitative Wednesdays. Have a good week, and we'll talk a week from now. Take good care, everyone. Bye bye.